We are back. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, it's Christmas Eve. We've been working up the whole holiday season to this moment, but then hot on Christmas Eve's heels are New Year's Eve and New Year's resolutions. And my next guest is here to talk to us about thinking about making some resolutions on spending and saving as it relates to college. And joining me is Jan Combs, who, as I mentioned, works here with me at College Coach, is also a former financial aid officer at both BU and Harvard. Hi, Jan.
Hi, Beth. How are you? Happy holidays.
Same to you. And thanks
Thank
for
you.
taking time today to talk to us.
Of course.
Um, so when we were thinking through what are some New Year's resolutions that we would encourage students and families to make, obviously going into the new year, having a smart plan for your financials is a great
Yeah,
one. Of course, that is incredibly broad. So
it is.
because we are a podcast all about college admissions and paying for college, we thought we would focus in on it as it relates to that. So what are your thoughts as someone is approaching the new year and wanting to kind of establish some really good habits because they know that it's going to be time to start spending for college or paying for college? What are your initial thoughts there?
Sure. Well, I think it's never too early to have good spending habits and good
Of course.
financial responsibility, certainly. And I think New Year's resolutions really is a time when we think about that. Let's get on top of our spending for the new year. And as it relates to college, certainly saving for college. If you have younger children, really getting a handle on saving for college. If you have children in college now, really making sure you have the funds allocated to, reallocate to college to pay that bill either monthly or in one big lump sum. Or if you're like me, where your oldest child is a senior in college, really starting to work with that child who in less than 6 months is going to graduate, likely have a full-time, good salary generating position, and, really working with him to teach him how to manage his money when he gets out into the real world. So lots of options within that whole New Year's resolution and spending realm, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have done lots of podcasts around saving for college and thinking about those vehicles. And also similarly, we do a lot of stuff related to paying for college and all the
Yeah.
different ways. So I think today, so for the people who are interested in those pieces, I would suggest go to our archive.
Yes, lots
And
out there.
exactly. And actually, if the archive itself at the Voice America site isn't super searchable, but if you go to our
Yes.
blog.getintocollege.com, you can search for those topics on our blog. And we write a blog associated with every single podcast. And so you can
Yes.
find the dates and times that these blogs ran. And then you can go to the Voice America archive, or you can go to the Apple Podcast archive, and you can search for that
Yeah.
specific session there. So
Sure.
plug for the archives. All
Yes,
right.
lots of
So
options.
yeah, exactly. But let's talk about things like budgeting and tools
Yes.
like that, because of course that's always the first step. So are there are budgets and spending plans the same kind of tool? Do you think about them differently? How do you approach this?
So that's a great question because oftentimes people use the term budget and spending plan kind of interchangeably, and they're actually similar in some ways, but there is a grand difference, and that's what I really like to focus on. So with budgets, think about them more as an estimation of your revenue sources and all of your anticipated expenses. You're kind of projecting out what your revenue might be, what your expenses might be. Budgets are a terrific tool to get a handle kind of on that global information that you need. A lot of people are like, oh, budgets, that keyword, it's terrible. I don't want to do it. They really are wonderful, handy tools that you can, use to make your financial life smoother and to reach your goals. So
Right.
budgets are really think of that kind of overarching data collection and analysis of what you think is coming in and what you think is going out.
Right.
Spending plans, which I love, really are a much more detailed financial plan. It allows you to look at exact income figures, and it's going to prompt you to make decisions. And a
Mm-hmm.
spending plan will go so deep as to force you or prompt you to make decisions about every single dollar that you have left over after reaching your responsibilities. And
Right.
that's why they're so powerful, because spending plans force you to allocate your money, every dollar, guided by your values, right? And your
Yep.
priorities, which will help you reach your goals, whether that's saving for college, helping your almost college graduate get a handle on life, or reallocating money, to college or anything else really in the realm of, college expenses.
Sure. Well, but of course, as you're talking about it, I'm like, oh my goodness, like a really
Right.
detailed plan and every dollar. I already start to get, like, oh, what is this
Yep.
going to require? So
Yep.
with that in mind, what tips do you have for starting to even think about something like that?
Sure. And I will say that it's not meant to be an overwhelming situation. You really can keep it simple. You can use a system that works, and you'll define that system yourself, whether or not you're using an Excel spreadsheet because that's how you roll and that's what you're most comfortable with, or whether you're using one of the many, many, many online tools or phone apps that are available. The
Okay.
key to keep it simple, you pick your system. Keep sight of what your goals are. Think about your values and priorities, and that's going to lead you as you make your decisions. But ultimately, the key with a spending plan that's different than a budget is you're really looking at every single pay cycle. So
Right.
whether or not you
Okay.
get paid every week, every 2 weeks, or every month, you need to revisit. And you look
Okay.
at what you're getting that month. Is it your what pays coming in, what other revenue sources that you have? Do you have a side gig? Are you getting a gift that particular month? So you're working with real income figures. And then you're going to look at your real expenses, minimum loan payments, rent or mortgage, the amount you've committed to saving for college, for example. And once you account for all that, hopefully you have some money left over.
Right.
And that's where you decide where to put it. You're driving that. You have the power then to decide really where your money's going.
Right.
And it works better because it's not just a haphazard pool of money that all of a sudden is going to go for like non-discretionary things.
Right.
You have the power to allocate it where you want to allocate it. So that's why spending plans are a little bit more powerful than just a general budget. So
And
yeah, but those are the tips. Keep it simple.
right. Okay. So keep it simple. So you're gonna share some of your favorite resources for this. But before we go there, um, if I'm sitting here at home right now, I found the resource that I'm going to use. What kinds of information do I need to gather in order to kind of get ready to take a hold of? Because I really think that's how I like to think of it is I'm taking control of my money. And what there's no worse feeling than when you sort of feel like it's out of your control. Like
Yeah.
I got paid and I don't really know where that money went.
And I don't know where to
And
start, right?
exactly. And or I don't know where to start, or both. My money is flying out the door. I have no idea
Right.
what I'm spending on, and I don't even know how to start figuring it out and get control
Right.
of it.
So that is the key. Keep it simple. Use one if you're really concerned about being able to organize yourself. Use one of those online resources. There are a ton of companies, and we can share that at the end, that have free online spending plan templates. So they've already kind of charted it out for you. So
Okay.
there will be an income section first of all. That will say what's your net income in a certain period. Do you have other revenue sources? Do you have a side hustle? Are you getting money from a friend or whomever? That's going to always be the first part of it. Then monthly bills. Is it rent or a mortgage? And then monthly debts, minimum payments due to those student loans or car loan or whatever it is. And then of course, I'm not a Grinch. Of course, we're gonna put in lifestyle expenses, right? Because
Right.
everyone should incorporate that. Do you have concert tickets or do you want to buy movie passes or whatever it is? You're gonna incorporate your lifestyle because that's important.
Right.
And then of course any other living expenses that you have. So where to get that info? Obviously, your pay stub is going to be the number one go-to place initially, as
Hmm.
well as any 1099s if you have a side gig or something like that. And then monthly statements. You get your car loan statement in, you get your mortgage statement in, and then look at receipts to try
Hmm.
to get a handle on how much did I spend in groceries last month, for example? How much did I spend on clothing, et cetera, et cetera? So really pay stubs, bank statements, grocery receipts, any types of receipts, all of those financial documents. And I will say, I know this is sounding scary right now. Once you do it once, you're good to go.
Right.
It's that initial template that's just going to take a little bit of time pulling from your resources. But I promise, if you look at one of those online templates, they actually have a lot of these categories already built in.
Right.
And then you personally decide, hey, what's on the docket? Am I really looking to, what's my priorities? Am I looking to save for college or something else, or pay down loans, for example? So it's not as scary as it sounds. I promise. If you're looking at a template, you'll see this is doable for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about this as a New Year's resolution, but there's nothing that says that you have to do this on January 1. You could earmark a few hours between now and January 1 to choose the template you're going to use.
Yes.
And then you could spend the month of January keeping track of all those documents, like you just said. And then in February could be the month that you set it all
That
up.
you kick off your actual spending plan.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
right? So,
And
you
then
know,
once you know, revisit,
right.
revisit often.
Exactly. And just like a little piece at a time. So now is a great time to share kind of what are some of your favorite resources that you use or that you recommend for others?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, there's a lot out there, which is great. So depending on your style and which online sources you want to use, but certainly NerdWallet is a really big popular company. Mint, FINRA. And then if you're looking more for government sites, certainly Consumer Credit Bureau, that would be consumerfinance.gov. That's a great one as well. They have wonderful articles. The Balance has had information as well related to spending plans. So you really can't go wrong. FINRA is another one that has a lot of great tools, budgets, spending plans. And then if you get to a certain point where you're like, hey, I want to do my own thing, an Excel spreadsheet works beautifully. That's what I use.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My husband has created an Excel spreadsheet. We also use Quicken, which is,
Yes,
I know, not free, but we use that to kind of track and keep track of what do we spend our money on.
sure.
Yeah.
And that's a great point that you brought up, that you're using Quicken, right? To
Mhm.
try to look at really what your expenses are. We do something similar, and it is free.
Mhm.
We use our charge card
Oh, yeah.
receipts, and we just plunk them into an Excel spread, and they're all characterized. And
Right.
so we have a really good sense of where our money went in the past year, and that will help us project out. So
In that
yeah.
situation, is that you use the credit card and that's your primary thing that you use to
Well,
spend?
it is,
Yeah.
because since I have 3 children, I use my credit card and I get 2% back, and of course it goes right into my college savings plan.
Ah,
So that's why I use it. It works for me. So certainly another way of approaching it.
I love it. Any last thoughts or tips before we wrap up the segment?
I think you hit on it, Beth, is that you don't need to start it on January 1st if you don't
Right.
want to. You take baby steps, you develop your system, you develop your commitment as well, because it is something that you do need to go back, each pay period and revisit. But that's the key. And again, keep it simple, use a system that works for you. And again, they're not meant to limit.
Right.
It's really giving you power
Right.
to allocate your funds based on your values and priorities at the time. So look at it as a positive thing.
Yes. Right. We're not limiting what you spend your money on.
No,
You're just taking control of what you spend your money on and making
absolutely.
sure that you're spending on things you actually really want to spend it on.
Yep,
So,
exactly.
Jan, thanks
Yep,
so much for joining today. I really appreciate it.
absolutely. Good
All
luck and
right.
happy holidays.
Thanks. And same to you. We are going to be talking about regular decision. Those deadlines are coming due. And we'll do that right after a quick break. So don't go away.